Well, hello, stargazers. This is the August 2021 horoscope. I am Miss Jenny, and I am your astrologer. So, I know I said the horoscope for the month was going to be a week late, but if you do any kind of spiritual work or you work with entities or deities, anything outside yourself, you know that like when you're called to do something, they're not going to let you rest until you do it. So, this is the horoscope. Okay, so today, as I do this, it is August. It's August 1st, I swear. And as I'm looking at the aspects for the month just now, I am realizing that today also is a tremendously powerful day of significant portent and a lot of spiritual or divine intervention and communication. So no wonder I can't get any sleep and I got to get this done, right? Okay, so coming out of the gate, starting the month, we have, as we speak, Sun, Mercury, and the North Node all cazimi, which means that the Mercury is inside the heart of the Sun, the most powerful, protected position it can be in. The North Node is there as well, making this something of much bigger significance, meaning this is something of portent for everybody on a large scale, not just a few individuals. And Venus is trining Uranus at the same time. Now, Venus trining Uranus is not normal, like a big key, high key point sort of thing. However, Uranus this month also is making its retrograde station. So as we speak, we are feeling Uranus like concentrating all of its power into one focused spot before it releases and lets go. So this is a powerful, explosive, unpredictable, revealing month. And we're going to talk about Uranus a lot before I'm done. So with Venus trining Uranus, while we have this Mercury, cazimi, the Sun, and the North Node all at 8 degrees exact, like bundled together, Venus is on the fixed star Asellus Australis. So Asellus Australis is one of two stars that represent the asses or the donkeys, right? Not the asses who won't wear their masks and don't believe the coronavirus is real, but the donkeys. And typically they make reference to it as possibly being associated with the two donkeys at the manger where Jesus was born. And the idea or the symbolism of this particular fixed star is about protection and also about the temperament of the donkey, which is generally speaking very patient and very docile and doesn't make a big fuss. But if the donkey senses or mule senses something ahead that's dangerous, even if you don't see it or recognize that there's something out there, they will not move. And any farmer or person who works with animals, right, that's ever worked with donkeys, they will all tell you the same thing. Like, that donkey doesn't want to move, that donkey is not going to move, and you will not move it. So with Venus conjuncting the fixed star Asellus Australis and trining that Uranus as it's making its station this month, one of the things that we can expect is that there may be some unexpected or immovable blockages. A lot like that ship, the Evergreen, that got stuck in the canal, but maybe not nearly as entertaining. In this particular case, because Mercury and the North Node are involved with the Sun, in this configuration today, because it's a one-day thing that cazimi occurs, right? This could also indicate that there are some things that are going to, there's an expression called throwing a monkey wrench in the machinery, where it kind of jams up the works and everything's got to stop until you get this thing straightened out. So it's the same thing. So there may be things that are occurring today where there's a lot of divine intervention or cosmic interference that is happening specifically because there's something that somebody needs to see or many people need to see. And it's only going to happen if we shut the machine down long enough to force people to look. So you can't hide it in the busyness. So this is a pretty important day. So mark your calendar, circle it for today, and keep an eye on what happens both in your personal life as well as what's going on in the world. So it may not be obvious what this thing was about, right? Or what the big omen of things to come was, but it will be obvious later. So it'll be very interesting. Keep an eye on that. The other thing, as we're talking about this cazimi at 8 Leo, we also have the asteroid Psyche at 6 Leo. So Psyche, the asteroid of empathy and spiritual communication and psychic work and all those transpersonal things that, for example, have got me doing the horoscope a week before I said I was going to do it because I had to do it today. I was compelled to do it. Is also in this mix. So there's some real important messages being passed along. So flashes of insight, hunches, all the sort of stuff, like pay attention, pay attention. There is magic afoot, my friends. There is magic afoot. So that's very exciting. Okay, so that, my dears, is how we're starting the month. All right, now before I get into the rest of the horoscope, let me talk about Uranus, because this is a Uranus month, and this is very important. We need to understand Uranus and how it's functioning this month to be able to make sense of what we're dealing with, right? So, everybody knows that Uranus is a very explosive, unexpected planet, and, it's the planet of surprises and shock and, antisocial behavior. Well, I mean, depending on what side of the thing you're on, right? But especially rule breaking and breaking up the status quo. And the thing about Uranus, especially in this particular instance for this month, while it's making its station and we're feeling it, whoo doggy, are we feeling it? More than shocks, explosions, and frightening things. Okay, Uranus is the truth bringer. Uranus is the stroke of, like, literally the shot of lightning in the dark that illuminates everything for 5 seconds. And suddenly you're seeing all sorts of things out for miles ahead of you that you couldn't have seen otherwise, right? Because in the pitch black darkness of night, you couldn't see these things. But when lightning strikes, everything's illuminated and nothing's hidden. That's the function of Uranus, both in a chart natally and in a chart in a mundane sense, right? It reveals things. And typically it happens so fast and so unexpectedly that it is shocking. Uranus also rules electricity, so there is possibility we may have some weird thing going on with the power grids or the electricity, or, keep it, speaking of somebody who goes through electrical appliances a lot, keep an eye on your electrical stuff, computers, tech, all this sort of stuff. They may go a little wonky or haywire. Make sure your power surge adapters are working, and make sure that you're plugged into them. Now, the other thing about Uranus, or the other things about Uranus, I just want to point out, so keep this in mind as we go through the month, and also, for personal reference too, but we know Uranus is the truth bringer. We also know that Uranus breaks up stalemates. Uranus is the planet of progress, right? And you cannot have progress where you are maintaining a status quo or you have a stalemate. Uranus breaks stalemates, right? So they call Uranus the rebellious planet or the rule breaker. But ultimately and essentially, Uranus is the stress test, and Uranus will force and catalyze breaks to straining parts of the system that need to be broken so we can move forward and move past, because it is now an obstacle. It's no longer a source of strength and production. It's an obstacle hindering our growth. Uranus is the planet that rules progressives. So we should see a lot more emphasis on progressive things this month, progressive ideologies, literally people who want to make progress. Lead, follow, or get the hell out of my way. As a matter of fact, don't lead. We don't like where you're going. Just get out of the way. So there's a lot of that. Now, the thing about Uranus that you may not know, while we do know that Uranus is an outer planet and it wasn't discovered until recently, what you may not know is that Uranus is the higher octave planet of Mercury. So all of your outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, are transpersonal planets. But what that also means is that they are higher octave planets of the co-ruler of the sign it rules. So Uranus is the higher octave planet of Mercury. And technically Uranus rules Aquarius and Mercury does not. But just take my word for it, Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. And Neptune, of course, is the higher octave planet of Venus. And Pluto is the higher octave planet of Mars. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes with that about being a higher octave planet and transpersonal stuff and yada, yada, yada. And we're not getting into that now. But what I will say for Uranus, because Uranus is the higher octave planet of Mercury, one of the things that we can expect is, because Mercury rules street level communication, day-to-day stuff, like really like, here, now, down, celebrity gossip, right? As compared to social economics plans. Like, this is the difference in the level of priority and thinking that we're talking about, right? So very common base, simple thinking, Mercury. Very advanced, sophisticated, progressive, socially conscious, like this impacts the whole group on a very deep level, Uranus. And these two are together because Mercury and Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So with this being a Uranus month, we can absolutely expect to see higher octave thinking, Mercury, all month long, and these things becoming very, very important, as well as some shocking things coming to light. Now, I will say as a caveat, shocking things coming to light is not, there's nothing, I don't know, my shock button is broken, so there's not a whole lot left now that's shocking, right? I mean, what, you're going to tell me zebras or penguins? Like, I swear I can't take anymore. But there are some unexpected revelations of truth and exposure of things not previously exposed that we can absolutely expect to find ourselves dealing with this month. We can also expect people who have things to hide. You know who you are. People who have had things to hide and have been successfully working the system for quite some time now to disguise these things. You know, like Matt Gaetz up until now. But not just him, there's a whole lot of people. They can absolutely expect some to be the recipient of some divine intervention as the goddess and the cosmos throws a few monkey wrenches in the machine to gum up the works and break everything down momentarily so that people get a chance to see exactly what you thought you were getting away with hiding or misdirecting like a magic trick. So here's to people who have nothing to hide. So this energy is going to carry us through the month, but we're starting out the month today with big stuff. And again, remember, it may not be anything quite so dramatic and theatrical. So mark your calendar and maybe even keep a little day note about the things that you see and hear and deal with today, right? And so you can go back later and see what turned out to be the big omen. Okay. Now, it's not going to be an awful month, in spite of the fact that Uranus is stationing. It will not be an awful month. It's going to be awful for some people, but for the rest of us, it's not going to be an awful month. All right. Now, on the 8th, we have a new moon at 16 Leo. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is the new moon at 16 Leo. So if you take it back 1 degree, it's going to be 15 Leo, and that's a power degree for Leo. 15 degrees of the fixed signs are very powerful degrees. So the new moon at 16 Leo is important because, sorry, I'm checking my notes. Oh, God. You want to see my notes? Right in front of me. So this particular new moon in Leo is important because this is absolutely going to bring with it more of this, like, oh my God, didn't see that coming. So one of the things we can expect around this new moon, give or take a day on either side, is some seeds being planted, some new cycles starting. So we should see a whole new fresh round of something beginning. That is a complete departure from what we've been dealing with prior to now. So, I don't know. As an example, itchy. As an example, if these were legal cases, right? This new moon would represent time when there's a whole new round of legal charges or whatever this thing is that begins a whole long string of events for a court case. This would be a whole new round of things that get dropped right now, completely separate from, I mean, maybe loosely connected, but ultimately independent of the things that are already in existence and in motion. So for you, my darling viewers, around the 8th, we can also expect to see, you're going to feel it all month because this is a very Uranian month. So there's a bit of like, ooh, kind of like feeling like you need to go do something, right? Because we're very energized. Around this new moon, around the 8th, however, you're going to feel it. Like you will have already gotten things into motion and you're going to feel like it's time to move, go, right? Just waiting for the firing starter to go. This particular moon is also going to be very pleasant. So for those of you who are looking for something that doesn't make you want to pull your hair out and scream because enough is enough already. We've had enough progress. Can we just have boring now? This will be actually a really sweet time. So around the 8th, we can look for some really nice stuff to happen. And for those of you who are in the healing arts or in any form of artistic expression or craftsman, things that involve improving and repairing the existing environment around you, whether it's by beautification or by fixing things or people, you're going to get a huge boon around this new moon. So put your prayers and your wishes in, and remember to do your visualizations, and know that the goddess and the universe is looking out for you, and some well-earned assistance is coming in right about now on this new moon around the 8th. Okay. Now, as we get down to, and this, my friend, these are the dates I want you to watch. So definitely mark this in your calendar. August 12th to 17th. August 12th to 17th. I want you to mark it. What is it? Encircle it and just draw a line through those dates. Because this is the hotspot this month. All right. So, I'm not going to say on, because it's through this whole span of days. We've got some big stuff happening. So, through this week, the August 12th through the 17th, we have, give me 1 second, I'm trying to decipher my notes. Okay. Yeah, that's what it is. So it's a mixed bag, right? So this is not a simple, easy week to interpret. So on the one hand, right, we have some things that are coming down the pike, like literally the hammer's coming down, but it's coming down with the precision of a surgical knife. So this is literally a time when we are cutting the chaff from the wheat. So for people who are involved in getting ready to make the next, penny drop in the machine, this is the week. This is the week when that last little tumbler turns and everything starts cascading down behind it. So this is going to be a really, really interesting week to watch, because the precision of a surgical knife, and some things are going to have to be lost along the way, but these will be huge landmark things that are happening. So imagine the amount of exact detail and preciseness that has to go into a rocket launch, right? Like that type of like surgical precision going in and making that last little thing. That's this week. So for people who've been working on really important stuff, this is the week that it all goes in, right? It all goes in. We should be hearing about it. Now, at the same, I know that sounds so scary. And it is if you're on the receiving end of whatever this is. I would not want to be on the receiving end of this target practice. At the same time, for everyone else who's not in the recipient of consequences, this is actually going to be a really sweet, nice time. Venus will be entering Virgo on the 17th. So Venus is hitting those last degrees of Mercury after the 12th. And we're feeling that with this. But once Venus clicks over into Libra on the 17th, ooh, honey, we're all going to be taking a nice big breath of relief, because whatever this is that's going on, that's finishing up, right, and getting ready to launch, it's going to make a whole lot of people really, really happy. Whole lots of people, meaning us. So look for that. Now we do have a quarter moon on the 15th, and that's just going to add heat to the dish, right? So it's really going to get things cooking. So the 12th through the 17th is a big week. Now, for you personally, for those of you who are out there, this is a great time. Again, same idea, same energy, same application, right? This is a really good time to get in and do the finishing touches on stuff you've already started, right? So things that you need to finalize and really get down to the absolute nth particle of a degree to make sure it's just right. Virgos are going to love this time. This is the time to finish up those projects and get them in. If you have a project that could potentially be ended later, but you could finish it earlier, try to finish it up now, because you want to be free to start new cycles after this. If you just started a project, this is still a really, really good time, because there are some circumstances and situations that may change on a dime without warning around this time that will force you to revisit and re-examine how you're approaching something, which will actually, in spite of the inconvenience, will actually make this much bigger and better. Okay. Now, here in the U.S., and certainly across the globe, but I'm living here with knuckleheads who think an inconvenient mask is, the worst thing that can happen to them. In spite of the fact, by the way, did you know that in Myanmar, remember Myanmar? Mm-hmm. In Myanmar, with everything that's going on now, the hospitals, because the military has literally started abducting doctors and nurses so that they can't treat people who are not aligned to the military. And the COVID cases are so high in Myanmar right now that half of the entire country is infected. And we're talking about farmers, right? We're not talking about people who live in cities. We're talking about primarily a country that's full of farmers with a couple of pockets of cities. So like if you could think of, I don't know, Iowa, right? You know, with one big city and everything else is basically farms. It's kind of like Myanmar. So you've got a whole lot of villagers which are farmers, right? Who are now COVID positive and they don't have access to medical care or oxygen because the military has been hoarding the oxygen and refusing to let it get out. Now the hospitals, the remaining doctors and nurses that are there, are so flooded with COVID patients because half the country right now is infected. So flooded with COVID patients that they won't even admit people unless they can bring their own oxygen tank. That's how bad it is with COVID and the situation in Myanmar. Meanwhile, here in the United States, we've got knuckleheads who swear up and down that the vaccine is a hoax. The media is lying to us. Dr. Fauci doesn't know what he's talking about. You know, and they know better because they saw a meme on Facebook and they watched a video on YouTube. So to hell with you and your neighbors and my family, I'm not wearing a mask. And then they go to the hospital, and then you have these horrible stories from the nurses where they're looking at young kids who are in the ICU. They're saying, please give me the vaccine. And the nurse has to tell his kid, it's too late. 12 years of free education, folks. 12 years of free education. We expect a little bit better from folks when you get 12 years of free education. I'm just saying. Anyway, so all of that is to say also, during this week, the 12th through the 17th, with Mercury heading into Virgo and Mars quincunxing that Saturn, Mars in Virgo, by the way, and Saturn in Aquarius. So, and quarter moon in Scorpio, blah, 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 blah. I would absolutely expect this week to be a critical turning point in terms of conversations that we are having across the globe for various reasons that are specifically related to community health and global health. So here in the United States, maybe these horses' asses will finally put a damn mask on, or, hey, babe, sign a waiver saying you will not seek medical care when you come down positive. You don't believe the virus is real, you don't have to see a hospital. Or we could, watch this space, we could potentially see the insurance companies turn around and charge people for their medical care if they become COVID positive and receive treatment, if they have previously refused to take the vaccine, because they've done this to themselves. So that's always a possibility too. And in other parts of the globe where these are things that we're dealing with, we can certainly see conversations that turn everything on, like literally on a dime. So it's a pivot point that week. And especially where it is specifically concerning global community health. So if you have a mask, wear a mask. If you're watching this channel, you probably wear a mask. If you're watching this channel and you don't wear a mask, I don't know why you're here. I don't know why you're here. Please go. There are other astrologers who are Trump-loving astrologers and think the virus is a vaccine too, and think Facebook is a great source of medical education. Go. Okay, because you're only going to get offended and disappointed here. All right, so, people are just frustrating. Okay, so now, as we head down the month, we're going to get down to August 22nd, and again, we're going to mark our calendars. So mark your calendars. August 22nd is going to be an important day, and the reason is this. Uranus will make its final official station. It will be hanging, suspended in midair, in limbo, on the 20th, just 2 days before the 22nd. Now, on the 22nd, the Sun and Jupiter will both be conjunct, and they'll be at 29 Aquarius. So Jupiter will be cazimi the Sun around that time as well, which makes Jupiter a super Jupiter, right? Super Jupiter, as we're under this Uranus station. Because remember, outer planets take a long time to change direction. So even though it officially came to a standstill, Uranus did on the 20th, it's still pretty much standing still on the 22nd. So that station, that motionless station that amplifies all that Uranian energy, is in effect with this Sun-Jupiter conjunction. And here's why it's important. This combination of things, and there's some other things happening at the same day, this combination of things is going to give us some really unprecedented, amazing events. So, doesn't mean that they're all going to be wine and roses. It could be some really upsetting stuff too. But look for, with the Sun-Jupiter conjunction, look for angels. look for lots of angels to be at play. So there will be some really close calls. There will be close calls you didn't know was a close call, and you're never going to know just how close you came. Because angels and divine intervention were at play protecting you or the group of people you were with. Uranus stationing, or Uranus having made its station at the same time this is happening, we can also expect anything that is a huge, and there will be some huge events, anything that is huge events that involve large groups of people will also be very, very important and critical turning points in terms of moving the needle forward and getting us to, oh, thank God, the next level of evolution. So we can expect by the time we get down to the 22nd, we can expect all this conversation stuff that we were dealing with from the 12th to the 17th to crystallize come the 20th and really reach a breaking point, but in a divine blessed way. So no matter how bad it gets, no matter how freakishly things happen, freak storms, whatever, like pick your thing, right? Just understand, one, this is not the end of the world, contrary to the belief of some wackadoodles who have been prophesying the end of the world multiple times for hundreds of years and been wrong every single time, right? That's not a prophecy. That's just guessing. It's not the end of the world. And also, everything is happening with a lot of divine intervention and cosmic celestial protection. So no matter how bad it is, understand that it could be a lot worse. You just were spared knowing how bad it could have been. But all of these things are going to catapult us forward, finally. Because remember, Uranus is the liberator. So Uranus will break the status quo. It will break up a standstill. It is the planet of progress and liberation and truth and exposure. So Uranus will cleave us from the illusions that we have been hanging on to or that we've been anchored to all this time so that we can get on with it, right? So it's kind of like when you have wildlife that's tangled up in fishing lines and plastic bottle rings and all this sort of stuff, and they can't move. They're stuck in this thing that's not natural for them and not important or germane to their existence, right? Car covers, elastic, plastic bottle rings, fishing lines. These are all man-made things. They're not natural things. And animals get caught in it, and that prevents them from moving forward and getting on with their life. And it can, if they stay there long enough, prove to be deadly for them. So when they get cut loose from that and set free, they're free. They're gone, and they're going to live life and move on to the next chapters of their life and their evolution. And this is the kind of experience we're talking about right here with this Sun-Jupiter conjunction and Uranus station. So we are about to be liberated from the things that trap us and would kill us if we stay in this place and situation any longer. And so that's a good thing. All right. Now, at the same time that this is happening, Mercury and Mars will be in Virgo, and it will be trining Uranus. So Mercury and Mars in the lovely surgical sign of Virgo will be lending their strength and power and skills to Uranus towards the purpose of progress and liberation. Now, I just want to point out here, because Virgo and Mercury in Virgo, Mercury is in a sign of rulership. So that makes Mercury even stronger, right? And we love that. So Mercury in Virgo, and the thing to understand about the sign Virgo is Virgo brings order out of chaos. The whole point of Virgo, the whole trip that Virgo is on, is not whatever these, oatmeal, bland, boring stuff they describe Virgos as. They're anal and retentive, and they're perfectionists, and they're critical. And you'd think I was a Virgo. I get so upset by this. But really, their trip in life is to bring order out of chaos. They're problem solvers. Virgo, the sign Virgo, is a problem solver. Anytime you find a Virgo, typically the first thing they're going to do is go in and try to bring order out of chaos, which is why they often find themselves standing in the middle of people who couldn't tie their shoes without, a SWAT team there on the standby. Like, it's not that they're crisis magnets or that they attract broken, confused people, as much as they are beacons of light, hope, and organization for people who otherwise have difficulty navigating the world around them in whatever situation or moment that may be. So with Mercury in Virgo, we get extra super double doses of that, order out of chaos, which is brilliant. We desperately need problem solvers right now. And more than anything, we also need people who are using their critical thinking mind, and they now call medicine evidence-based medicine, which means they're not talking out their hat because they read it on Facebook in a meme or because they, somebody, whatever. or they watched some stupid YouTube video from some idiotic osteopath who doesn't his hole from a freaking gorilla's hole in the ground, right? Who's spouting all kinds of nonsense because he's pushing supplements. Yeah, that was a good one. No, Mercury in Virgo is very much about evidence-based medicine. So these are the people who have actually done the research and done the thinking and are open to being wrong, but are also saying, while I could be wrong, the evidence is this. This is what we need, and this is what we're going to get around the 22nd. So we're going to get a break here. Oh, thank God. And reason will prevail. Now, with Mars in Virgo, typically Mars in Virgo can be a bit challenging. I'm not going to lie, Mars in Virgo is a bit of a pain. You know people with Mars and Virgo, you know, God bless their special children. But with Mercury and Mars together in Virgo, especially in times like this, and with these planetary aspects, a Sun-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius, that Uranus station, ooh-wee, lordy, during this particularly specific time, that Mercury-Mars conjunction in Virgo is going to be a lifesaver, because Mars in Virgo is about getting the job done. So while Mercury in Virgo is happy to give you all the information and advice and expertise and suggestions and solutions that you could possibly stand, like literally they will tell you how it needs to get done. Mars in Virgo is the combination that says, okay, all right, so that's what needs to be done. Let's go. Go, 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 go. Ooh. Called old lady underarm. Ooh, she got gushy tricep. Anyway, sorry. So Mercury and Mars together is literally the action team, right? One's got the brains, the other's got the brawn and the precision. Like there are no wasted motions here. This is complete functional economy of motion and effort with these two. We're going to see things happen. And because they're trining Uranus, it's going to happen quick, fast, and clean. So, because Uranus doesn't waste time. Uranus is not a time waster. Uranus does not like lollygagging around, contemplating their navel or, like discussing an idea for 100,000 years and then not doing anything about it. Uranus lives in the future and it's always trying to get there. So it does not have time to hang around here in the present or in the past of people who've got literally nothing better to do than to, like spin circles in her head. Mercury, Mars, trine Uranus, Virgo, Taurus. This is the action team. We're going to get stuff done. So watch that week, August 20th, 22nd. Big stuff. All right. So, the last thing, this month is going to be the 30th. Now, on the 30th, we do have a quarter moon at 7 Gemini, which is not, it's by the time we get to the 30th, we're going to need a break. So we'll be okay. We'll be well into whatever it is that we're doing and moving, marching. So we don't need more stuff coming out of left field, and we're okay with that. However, I just wanted to point out that around the 30th in this quarter moon, the quarter moon specifically on the 30th, or depending where you are in the world and time zone, right? But this quarter moon, it has a very heavy Mercury emphasis, above and beyond just being in Gemini. So I would expect some major communications or news or messages to come through on the 30th. So again, circle that date and see what comes out of that in terms of news, information, messages, communications, statements, press releases. So we'll see what that's about. That'll be interesting as well. So the last thing I want to give you, and we're going to double back now because, straight lines don't exist around here. Okay. The Uranus station. So we talked at the beginning of the video about what Uranus is and what it's about, right? One of the other things I want to point out is that this particular Uranus station will be conjunct two fixed stars, Almach and Menkar. And again, this also contributes and reinforces this mixed message or mixed bag sort of month. So on the one hand, we have Almach, which is the fixed star that promises honors and success and recovery, and also things that were lost that are now found. So things that were hidden from us come to the surface or are more easily found, right? So psychics and detective work sort of stuff really comes up prominent under Almach, which for those of you who live in the United States who understand that we are in the middle of the biggest investigation ever with the January 6th Commission, and we actually have confidence that this is going to be a proper investigation. This is an important month in terms of discovering. So the key word for this month with Uranus is discovery, legal and otherwise. So again, for those of you who are, who've been banging on your stuff not being exposed and have been doing quite well all this time, the goddess and the universe and the angels and spirit guides and ancestors, all of these supernatural forces up beyond the material world that we don't see, they've got a whole other thing to say about this. So you might want to start making penance right now. I'm just saying. If you know you're going to get charged with a crime, you might want to just walk into the police station and admit your guilt now and lessen the consequences. I'm just saying. Okay, so that's Almach. Now, interestingly, with this particular position at 14 Taurus, there are two fixed stars. They're literally right on top of each other. So there's Almach and then there's Menkar right next to each other. Oh, my nails, all jaggedy. And Menkar rules problems with the throat and also diseases. So again, the things that we would look for this month also may have to do with COVID, because that's clearly respiratory throat sort of stuff, right? And that's definitely a disease we're all working through, kind of dealing with. Also, with Menkar and throat, some of the other things that we can expect is silencing. So there may be some major attempts, either some major attempts at silencing other people or large groups of people, or, because remember, we've got a lot of divine intervention happening this month. Some key people who would otherwise normally be mouthy and noisy as all get out, and just mucking up the works so they won't shut up long enough for other people to be heard, they might find themselves unexpectedly being muted by circumstances or physical illness, or, pick some other unusual, unexpected, amazing thing, because divine intervention has decided you need to shut that up, buddy. So that will be interesting, and we'll be doing that all month long, but most certainly it will be very visible and or entertaining when Uranus is spotlighted this month. So I would look for these fixed stars to become really active in entertaining or unexpected ways around the 8th, for sure, the 8th. Also, again, around the 22nd. The 15th, not so much. So we've got a week or so in here, a couple weeks in here actually, that are really nice. Oh, nice. Especially if you've been doing the right thing, doing all the right things. So that's it. And that is our horoscope for the month. Now, from here, what I want to do is, because we've gotten away from it, so we're going to get back to it. And this is particularly timely. So we're going to do the segment now on our goddess of the month. And this is a pretty interesting sidebar, and I'm really excited to share this budget. So it's timely, it's absolutely specific and focused for this month, and there's some really interesting history here that I bet you didn't know. Okay, so let's get that there. And sorry, give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so our goddess this month is a Voodoo goddess, Maman Brigitte. So for those of you who are a little freaked out about even the word voodoo, right? Don't worry, we're not doing any voodoo on the channel. I promise. And I don't know enough about those particular practices to get into it, so this is not what this is about. But understand that in almost every religion, except, here's some interesting research for you guys to do. In every religion, except the more recent religious developments, which would be Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, right? Except for those three, which are basically modern religions, every religion prior to that has had a female goddess as a counterpart to a male god. There was never a male god and that's it. Like, the man didn't self-reproduce his babies. There was always the male goddess and the female goddess, and they worked together. She was his equal. He was her equal. They co-parented the universe. So these were all the ancient religions until we got to the modern religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, which are all male exclusive religions where women pretty much don't exist anywhere except as chattel, or whores, these temptresses of men, these evildoers, or uteruses for rent, right? So don't get too freaked out when I talk about Maman Brigitte, because she is, or Brigitte, because she's a fascinating character and very timely. So bear with me. Okay, so Maman Brigitte is from the voodoo practice, or the voodoo spiritual practices. She's associated with the Celtic goddess Brigitte. Maman Brigitte is the only Loa who's portrayed as being fair-skinned. She's often depicted in bright, overtly sexual costumes. She's feminine, sensual, and dangerous at the same time. So the voodoo spiritual practice has their own femme fatale. I think they have a couple of them, actually. Now, much like her Celtic counterpart, or Celtic counterpart, Maman Brigitte is a powerful healer. If she can't heal or cure them, she helps her followers travel towards the afterlife. So she is both a healer and Sherpa to the other world if they're no longer able to stay in this one. Maman Brigitte is a protectress and will watch over women who ask for her assistance. See, one second for a second. Okay. Maman Brigitte is a protectress, and she will watch over women who ask for her assistance, particularly in cases of domestic abuse, unfaithful lovers, or childbirth. Right? See, this is what happens when you have a female goddess right up there with a male god. You've got to have balance of power in the house, right? All right, so here's the thing. And of course, the consort of Baron Samedi is Brigitte, and she's associated with they are both associated with death in cemeteries. So it's that kind of a month, and I'm sorry to say that. But understand also too that even though it's going to be that kind of a month, understand that death also, for people who have been struggling and suffering for a long time, death is a relief and a release from the suffering. So everything serves its purpose. We can't live forever. And honestly, who would want to, right? Who would want to? Okay. So history and origins. Unlike the other voodoo Loa, spirits who work as intermediaries, that's Gemini, a function, right? Intermediaries between the mortal and the divine. Maman Brigitte doesn't have her origins in Africa. Instead, she's believed to have come from Ireland in the form of the Celtic goddess Brigitte and the associated Saint Brigitte of Kildare. She is sometimes referred to by other names, including Grande Brigitte or Maman Brigitte. During the centuries of British colonization, many English, Scottish, and Irish people found themselves entering into contracts of indentured servitude. When they were transported to the Caribbean and North America, these servants, many of them women, brought their traditions with them. Because of this, the goddess Brigitte soon found herself in company with a Loa who had been carried to new lands by enslaved people forcibly brought from Africa. In some syncretic belief systems, Maman Brigitte is depicted as Mary Magdalene, reflecting the Catholic influence over the voodoo religion. Because of her origins in the United Kingdom, Maman Brigitte is often portrayed as fair-skinned with red hair. She's the powerful Loa of death in cemeteries, and her devotees offer her pepper-infused rum. In exchange, I just want to stop here and just make a little note, because I thought that was interesting when I read that. If you go to any liquor store right now, one of the things that seems to be a new flavor trend is pepper-infused vodka. This just came up a few months ago, right? So I thought that was interesting. I'm like, oh, well then. Okay. In exchange, she stands guard over graves and tombstones. Often the grave of the first woman to be buried in a cemetery is marked with a special cross and is said to belong specifically to Maman Brigitte. Now, some argue that Maman Brigitte's connections to Brigitte are overblown or even contrived, citing that Brigitte's fire and wells stand in too stark a contrast to Maman Brigitte's patronage of death in the cemetery. Others argue that the name, appearance, and championship for justice are parallels too strong to ignore. Now, Maman Brigitte is the consort or wife of Baron Samedi, another powerful Loa of death, and she can be called on for a number of different matters. Brigitte is associated with healing, particularly of sexually transmitted diseases, and fertility, as well as divine judgment. She's known to be a mighty force when the wicked need to be punished. If someone suffers from a long-term illness, Maman Brigitte can step in and heal them, or she can ease their suffering by claiming them with death. So this is from Learn Religions. It's a website online. I just thought it was great stuff. And there we are. So it's an interesting read. And if you're interested, you can certainly look that up. Now, one of the things, too, is they talk about Maman Brigitte having Celtic origins and having red hair and all that sort of stuff. And I just want to point out here, because I thought this was funny, too, like with the pepper-infused vodka. One of the things that is interesting to note about white men who are particularly racially focused, like they're very heteronormous. They want only white women, period. Only white people and white men anywhere, all the time, everywhere. So one of the things that's interesting, like, and these are weird conversations you just probably would never have with people. So just take my word for this. A lot of times they have this, what they call a redophile, like they've got this obsession with redheads. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they, in their mind, they believe that because of all of the recessive genes that make a redhead, a natural redhead, a redhead, that this person is clearly as white as you're going to get. Because blondes you can even imitate and dye the hair blonde. You can take a fair-skinned woman and dye her hair blonde and make her look white to her, which is why Aryans and white nationalists and stuff are so and Hitler, so obsessed with blondes, because all the recessive genes with the pale skin, the blue eyes, and the blonde hair, these are all recessive genes, just like red hair is even more recessive. So for those types of people who are very fixated on racial homogeny, meaning I only want people who look like me and we can only ever be like the whitest of the white, these guys will often gravitate to redheads because in their mind they think that redheads are the standard of absolute white recessive genes. But here's the funny part, right? And you wouldn't know this unless you actually, had friends who weren't white. One of the things that happens when you have mixed race children, especially blacks and whites, and if you get blacks and blondes, right, also. But with mixed race children between blacks and whites, every now and then you get redheads. You get fair-skinned redheads with freckles, right? So they're mixed, but they present as like howdy-doody white with freckles and red hair. So, and they're not pure white by any stretch of the imagination. So I always thought that was funny because it's like this thing where you think you're buying a pedigree puppy and you're actually getting a mixed mutt from the thing and nobody told you, right? So I like mixed mutts, so go figure. Anyway, so the thing with Maman Brigitte being a redhead, right, a fair-skinned redhead and having originated in an area where you had Irish indentured servants being moved into an island or an island area where there were already lots of African slaves who had moved into the area as well. It's not unthinkable that at some point, somewhere along the line, somebody intermingled and we ended up with a mixed child who came out with recessive genes, fair-skinned, freckles, red hair. So Maman Brigitte for those of you who are mixed, Maman Brigitte may very well be your patron saint of black and white mixed heritage. Thought that was interesting. Okay, so that's your goddess story for the day. Okay. So for this month, and also too, while I'm getting ready to close this, remember we've got a celebrity watch going. You'll see the little video clip about celebrity watches separate from this, so keep an eye on that. And for those of you who are doing it, continue doing it. So 90 seconds, literally the length of time it takes to do a commercial, 90 seconds. Send happy, loving, calm, peaceful, positive thoughts to someone somewhere and keep doing it. Every little bit counts, right? And certainly counts more than not doing anything at all. We're already in, but we're certainly heading into more of the cosmic melee, that is progress, because progress is always a very messy thing. And this is a very Uranian month, and Uranus is about progress, which means that, ooh, Lordy, some of this is going to be messy. Ooh, good God. Depending on where you live, the circumstance you find yourself in, some of this could be messy. So let's share and offer as much protection and fortification as we can to people who are in much worse circumstances than we are by sending them not thoughts and prayers, but actually visualizing, because you are a metaphysician. So visualize peace, calm, happiness, safety, protection, all those wonderful, happy things to someone or someones out there in the world that really could use the extra signal boost. Okay, and let's keep fighting the good fight. Let's get into good trouble. All right, you guys, talk to you later.